Alright, welcome to the video, guys. I'm gonna try and show you how I play Shikishima in this one. Um, and honestly, all secondary battleships could be played similar to this. You could take some things out of it for almost any battleship, actually. Um, yeah, it's gonna be a long one, though, so hope you're ready for that. Yeah, so let's just get straight into captain builds that I've been using on the Shikishima. I've got 3 of them. I have a more YOLO, like full IFHE secondaries type of deal because they pen 32 millimeters, which gets you over the general battleship armor hump, which is nice. And a more balanced one that has some secondaries, some tankiness, and then a full tank build, which is pretty standard, honestly. But depending on the map, any one is better than the other, honestly. So it all depends what you want to do. They all work. Yeah, and to deal with upgrades, generally, I'm taking secondary range over accuracy just because I don't think it makes that much difference. If you're going to have a bad salvo, you're going to have bad salvo regardless of the upgrade. Dispersion is... it's random, right? So there's nothing you can do to change that, really. And I find secondaries to be more fun anyway, more fun playstyles. So yeah, here in this game, for example, we're just kind of pushing up the middle, trying to get cross shots on things and see. That's generally a pretty solid way to start if you spawn in the middle of the map. Try and get on broadsides. Honestly, this ship is really, really, really good. I don't know if it's better than Yamato, but I find it way more fun than Yamato. It's pretty expensive though, so it'll take people a while to get to it. But yeah, I don't want to push up too far, as most of their team, as you can see, is heading over to the A flank, and I want to use this island on my right to prevent those ships over there shooting me. Yeah, I'm gonna have 4 games here for you guys. It's gonna be a long video, like I said, but hopefully you can kind of see how I like to play this ship. So I'm getting HE spammed, which is one of the weaknesses of battleships. Fires do a lot of damage to you, so you just kind of want to manage that, and by that I mean you don't want to push in too hard too quick, even with a secondary build, as much fun as that may be. See here, we're trying to punish a Des Moines from leaving the cap. You see, if we were over on the C flank, we wouldn't be able to do this. So it's really, really good to have a few people here on this map, at least, to try and help your guys at C punish people pushing in or trying to leave the C cap. As you can see, I'm not a huge fan of people sitting right next to me. It just seems kind of useless and too enticing for destroyer torps. Trying to hit a Moscow on in the side, you know. RNG's fun, right? And this ship feels it more than most because it has normal battleship dispersion, normal Yamato dispersion with only 6 guns. So you get either real juicy salvos or you get really bad ones. And that's just kind of how it goes with this thing. But when you get even one shell to hit in the right spot, you can do a lot of damage, right? Like that. Which is pretty hilarious. Yeah, and that's also why this position is very powerful. Now, you don't want to be in the middle all the time every game, but just in this situation. Generally, you want to go to the flank you spawn at, as a general rule, and then try and build crossfires from there. As you can see, I'm always kind of forward and back in these general areas. I don't just sit still. It helps you dodge some torps. You're always going to be vulnerable to torps as a battleship, but moving forward and back, turning, all those things help you. Now in this one I am actually running the accuracy mod. I don't know if you can see. But your secondary range, my secondary range in this one is 10.2 kilometers. And with the full secondary build, the range gets out to 11.6 kilometers, I believe. And you can see my shots are not terribly consistent even with this module to supposedly increase accuracy. So that's why I kind of just stopped taking it. But here you can see we're pushing in now, which is good. Oh, just too high on that shot, unfortunately. But you see how their whole team is on the A side of the map. So we can actually push up to this island right beside B and stop them from pushing through from A to B. This is a really, really strong position, but it requires you to have, well, the whole map covered from B to C. You can't really be taking shots from the enemy spawn when you're here. Otherwise you just die too quickly. But yeah, this Moskva is going to be really helpful this game. And that's part of the reason I'm pushing up. I'm trying to support him because he's getting in a really, really strong position. And they will for sure want to kill him. So trying to tank for him a little bit too. So you'll see in the future here, we're going to both be going forward and backwards, tanking for each other. So yeah, he played this really well. And as an added bonus, this also helps you get into secondary range when you can push up using islands like this. As you can see, we can hit ships pretty hard when you get a citadel. So the important thing to know about Shikishima is you're very vulnerable up close to battleships. If you give more than, I'd say, 27 or 28 degree angle, you're asking to get cheeked, because it is a Yamato hull after all. So even at 30 degrees, you'll get citadeled right through the front by even ships that can't overmatch you. So up close like this, trying to get your back turret on target is generally going to lead you to death, honestly. You can try and shoot you with your back turret, but I don't recommend it up close. And your secondaries have pretty good angles, so you don't actually have to expose your cheek to get your secondaries going, which is nice, which is really nice. Yeah, speaking of secondaries, I should probably say you have 5 Akizuki or Harugumo turrets on either side. So they're pretty insane, as we all know from those 2 ships. And the more you buff them, the crazier they get. And as a result, your AA is actually not bad. I know, right? Obviously, it doesn't work one-on-one against a carrier, but if you're in a group, or if you're next to, if I was next to this Moskva and the Thunderer behind me, we could probably kill some planes, is my guess, but it's hard to know. Now this game's going to be a good example of why I want to take manual secondaries, at least on this ship. It just helps you get so many kills, honestly. The extra little DPM that it puts out. Now here I kind of whiff. I should have aimed a little farther ahead. You can actually citadel a Kerr first through their cheek. It's way smaller than yours is, but you can actually citadel them there if you get the angle and the position just right. So here you see, I got a kill because of secondaries, and that would come into play later if the game lasted a bit longer. As you can see, we're kind of sharing the tanking. The Moskva's kind of low on HP, so I'm going forward a little bit to try and help him. But you see how I'm trying to limit the number of people shooting at me at once? Their whole team is basically here, but only a few of them can actually shoot at me. And that's important if you want to push in as a battleship, because your armor's good, but it can't withstand like 6 people shooting at you, We got that Abermarl, or however you pronounce it, pushing up behind us. Trying to just ignore him for right now. target-rich environment. I'm trying to shoot the thing that I think I'll do the most damage to. So you can see we're starting to think about their flank coming in. And I'm taking some damage, so backing off isn't a bad idea here either. And the turrets are slow, so if you're not used to playing a ship with slow turrets, you might want to take Expert Marksman and even the Turret Traverse module for the first little bit, because it's tough to get used to. You got to really think ahead of time where you're going to shoot and what you're going to shoot at. So you can see we overpen things a lot, but even overpens deal like 2,000 damage, or close to 2,000 damage per overpen, which is pretty good. Fortunately, though, you don't need many shells to connect in good spots to get kills. And that's why I love this ship. You hit things so hard when you get your full pens and your citadels. And you see there Ohio's pushing up on the other side, right? But we can just ignore him and focus on his the rest of his team here. Limiting engagements to one-on-ones or one-on-twos is really important in this ship and any battleship to push up. Sometimes you can't push in games. Sometimes there's just games where if you push in, it's going to be 6 people shooting you and you just die. And that's unfortunate, but that's just the way the game's designed right now. I wish they'd put better maps in to allow pushing, but unfortunately they don't. So you can see the secondaries shoot pretty quick. They don't pen 32 right now because I don't think I have IFHE on this build right now, but you'll see at the end we do quite a bit of damage with secondaries. Not a ton, but quite a bit. If you're not taking IFHE, just know that you pen 30 millimeters with the Harugumo turrets, or the secondaries. So if a cruiser's in your range, in your secondary range, you want to target that over a battleship because you full pen them everywhere. This Ohio's starting to push around a little bit, so we want to be wary of that. If he gets on our broadside, we will die, as it is a Yamato hull after all. Try and deal with the Bismarck first, because we have a nice little island to block vision. Now here you can see we don't actually deal that much damage. We got one full pen there, you know, and that's part of the reason I don't really like accuracy modules, because they feel pretty useless. If you're gonna get a good salvo, you're gonna get a really good salvo anyway, and if you're gonna get a bad salvo like that one, you will get it anyway. You know, we do finish them off with a fire even, and that was set by our secondaries as you don't want to shoot HE in this thing. Your AP is just too good. Now we got to be concerned about the Ohio. You see I popped my my spotter plane to try and get some vision over this island. But Moscow pops radar. As I said, he played this very well. Very, very well played. Even though, you know, our team kind of died around us just holding this position, look at the points that we have, right? We're coming up on 900 points here in a little bit. 2 minutes till we win. Assuming ships don't die on my team, but... And that pressure it means that they need to push. And when you need to push into fortified positions like this, it's really, really hard. Really hard to do. So here we're just gonna back out and angle to the Ohio. We're gonna disrespect the Vladivostok, which he could have killed me. Definitely. He definitely could have killed me. But I'll take my chances on a tier 8 battleship over a tier 10. Especially one like the Ohio. So you see how I got my back turret on and now I'm instantly angling so he can't cheek me. Right? And we bounce. You know, if I didn't angle like that, he could have killed me outright there very, very easily. And this ship does have overmatch. You know, you get to overmatch the bow of the battleship, which is pretty powerful. So even 3 full pens like that deal a lot of damage. The Vlad kind of missed, honestly. He should have been aiming for my my front cheek there, but sometimes you just need to get a little lucky. So you see a cruiser pops up and I want to instantly target him, but I should just let my secondaries finish the Ohio here. And an RNG fire is, well, fun, right? Isn't that why we play the game? RNG. Now, you'd think a tier 8 cruiser would die right away when they're on, you know, 5,000 HP and 6 kilometers from a tier 10 battleship, but nope, not this game. And we got the Kraken. As you can see, I run Yamamoto on this because it's really, really, really powerful when you get the Kraken. There I didn't get to use it, but you saw how much I could have healed. So, pretty solid game. All things considered. A little more focused on main guns than secondaries, but nice little positioning and just a fun game, honestly. I have more fun when you get to push in. See, only 20,000 damage from secondaries, but when you take IFHE and everything on them, oh boy, the damage racks up. Now here's an example where I have taken the secondary module. I don't have accuracy in this one, and yet you'll see the dispersion doesn't look that different in this game compared to last game. So that's why I don't take it. I don't know. You can maybe it works for you, but for me it's just not a good choice. And this one, I spawned on the wrong side of the map. This side of the map is more of the sniping side of the map, where the other side you can push in and brawl more. So, a little unfortunate, but we'll try sniping at things. It's pretty good at that, honestly. It is just a bigger Yamato after all. Now, this video could be shorter. I could cut out stuff like this, but I really want a video like this to show you every salvo I have, right? And these are really good games, keep in mind, right? I'm cherry picking these games. There's games where I do 50,000 damage and die. But I'm choosing good games, and I want you to see how many bad salvos there are, even in good games. So you just got to be prepared for things to happen, you know? There, obviously a good salvo, right? But it's a trade-off with this ship, and any battleship, really. I don't want to give you false hope that every salvo is going to be a Citadel worth 20,000 damage, but it is fun when you get them. I'm being very passive here. Very, very passive. I probably had a game where I died instantly, and I said, no way am I pushing in right away. And so that's what I'm doing. But as you can see, we're doing actually really good damage from long range, even without accuracy. You know, and saving my health right now allows me to do some stuff later that I couldn't do if I didn't have the health pool. Shot a little too far ahead on the curve first. But you see how most of my team is over on the C flank and moving over there. You know, they're even on the 9 line, which is not great. So I'm expecting to be pushed here. I'm expecting the enemy team to push up here. Get hit on the Cleveland. You know, it does seem a little unfair when you hit a Cleveland for 25k with a couple shells, but, you know, the last salvo before that, if you look, on the Cleveland did 1 overpen. Or 1 or 2, something like that. So it gets, I don't know, it's a trade-off. At this range, I'm pretty okay with being broadside, as my belt armor is really thick, so Battleship shouldn't really be able to Citadel me at this range. will do damage, but not a ton. And it allows me to constantly turn my turrets to focus on what's at B or what's at A here. So as you can see, their push is starting. And right now I'm thinking, hey, this is going to be a good game. My team's going to get C and we're going to hold B. You know, all they got to do is get into those islands and dig in, and then all I have to do is kite this side with my team, and this should be an easy win, right? Well, nothing really goes as planned when you're playing with random players, as we all know. So a game like this, it's just not possible to push in right now. I would have on the other side, obviously, like with my team, but sometimes you just gotta snipe, and that's the way it goes. Fortunately, this ship, unlike Kurfürst and unlike Ohio, you actually have range to work with, you know. That can be the problem with those ships, is sometimes you just need to be you need to be outside 20 kilometers, I guess I should say. Otherwise, their whole team can shoot at you. And those ships aren't good at that range. So I think this is probably my favorite secondary battleship right now, because it is just good at times like this where you can't be a secondary battleship. And the secondaries are hilarious when you fully commit to them. They fire so fast, and you get over 32 millimeters of pen, which is kind of crazy, honestly. Especially when you find like a Republic or something like that, where you just full pen everywhere. See, and you get salvos like that sometimes. Where you just form a nice little ring around them. So here, unfortunately, my team's all died around me. I got DDs pushing up. And my team is pushing far too hard into their spawn. So I'm seeing these things happen, and I'm like, uh-oh. It's going to be a rough game. And I'm not hitting broadsides like I should be. Aimed a little too far ahead of that guy. One thing I'd like to point out is the crosshair I'm using. It is the dynamic crosshair in-game plus a mod. And you can see it constantly changing. And what it does is it tells you the distance to lead based on the amount of time that it takes for the shells to land, and assuming the ship is going 30 knots, which is pretty average for ships at this tier. You know, cruisers, you aim a little farther ahead than what it says, but here it says 9 seconds, so we aim around 9. Especially because he's turning, he'll be going a little bit slower. It's kind of how things work. Can you see? I mean, good aim, unlucky on the damage, but good aim at least. And that's it's a really nice way to consistently hit things at range. Now here you might be thinking I'm playing a little bit too passive. And you're right, but I don't know where the DD is. And I was constantly being spotted. Now we know it was probably the Mogami. But since we killed him, now we can check with our concealment. If we go dark here, we'll know the DD's not really close once my shooting debuff goes away. So you see, we went dark for a second there when I didn't shoot. So I know the DD's not here. And in fact, he gets spotted elsewhere on the map. But that's a really, really good way of knowing where destroyers are at. And that's really important because torpedoes kill you very quickly. Because you can't heal any of that damage. Not really. Not like overpens and HE and fire damage. So now I can kind of push in a little bit. I don't want to push in too much because, well, there's 2 Montanas here on this flank, and potentially some cruisers coming up from the south. But even here, I'm still feeling pretty good about this game. You know, we've got B, all we gotta do is hold it. And that's another reason I've been trying to preserve my HP is they need to push into us. And to do that, they gotta push from A to B. And when they do that, I was gonna push down into their broadsides and kill them. But, as you can see, they never really ended up doing that. So now I'm just kinda bored and wanting to push in again and actually do something. Little unfortunate them ramming there. I never know how to shoot at that kind of situation. You know, my Kitakaze's still alive. I'm thinking, oh, this is good. This is good. Can push in and spot things for him if he smokes up. But maybe he just wants to open water. Again, a little bit low. I mean, people talk about an aim bug, which might be true. I try and be a little more critical on, did I aim too high or did I aim too low? You know, ships are constantly moving towards or away from you, even at little angles. So here, you know, he's turning broadside to me, but I think that one might have been a little bit too high, you know? And it lands on his upper belt. So you kind of constantly got to be thinking about that in a battleship. Are you aiming correctly? Or is it just RNG? Because sometimes it is RNG, but a lot of the time you could be aiming better. So you see he's going away a little bit. In fact, he starts turning out pretty drastically, so my shot's probably going to be a little bit off. Yep, and we splash or hit his belt, which is very angled at this point, so we won't bend. So as you can see, my destroyer just died to 2 Montanas, which is unfortunate. Let's just say that. It's unfortunate. So now I'm kind of left kind of alone against these guys. My team hasn't been the most useful this game, as you can see. But if we can get into secondary range with these guys, I think we can 1v2 them. Just because the secondaries are actually that powerful. When you go IFHE full secondaries. Which I'm pretty sure this is. Oh wait, actually no it isn't. I have concealment. Yeah, as you can see, I was messing around with builds. I don't really care for the concealment one as much, like that I had this game, even though it's a great game. Simply because you're rarely in the 14 to 15 kilometer range where concealment matters. And fire prevention is just so much more useful if you want to do a hybrid build. And if you want to go secondary as well, you're taking IFHE, so you can't get concealment or fire prevention. But as you'll see, the secondaries are pretty strong, even if you don't spec into IFHE. Now it's a little sketchy for me. I was thinking about turning out here, because kiting away is obviously a good position to be in, and being possibly flanked by 2 Montanas is a good way to die. So as you can see, I'm stopping here. I decided against turning out to 2 Montanas at 13 kilometers and 10 kilometers respectively. You know, I would have for sure died if I had turned out here. So my only option is to bow in. And as you can see, I'm splitting the difference so that neither one can shoot my cheek. And then I'll focus the close one. And as you can see, we can get citadels. This ship has one of the highest pen values in the game, so despite Montana having a really hard citadel to hit, it is doable. At least bow on citadel's hard to hit. You can see all the fires and things that secondaries are doing. Even 2 hits for 11k is pretty good. The other thing this ship has over Yamato is reload. The ship reloads way faster than Yamato. Yamato gets a 30-second reload base. This one's somewhere in the 26-second base reload time, I believe. And that can get pushed down with the reload mod and everything. And I switch back and forth between reload, main guns reload mod, and secondary reload, because I don't really know which one I want to play. When you get in secondary range, obviously it's really fun to have the secondary reload, but it's pretty rare to get into that range these days. You can see all the fires that are killing that Montana. Now we got the next one. I'm kind of okay with pushing up a little bit, but I don't really want to get rammed here. As you can see, we've lost a lot of map control. They got into C, and now they're starting to catch up on points. Unfortunately, broadside battleships at close range don't take citadels sometimes. And that's just really frustrating, but something you gotta live with. And that's honestly why I take secondaries. So I'm trying to go for his nose citadel. Didn't get it there, but 4 full pens does a lot. And there I got really lucky, because he could have cheeked me there. If he had aimed properly, he probably could have got through. But he's pretty much dead to fires and secondaries anyway, so... Unfortunately, we don't quite kill him there. But you can see this ship is really strong when you know how to angle it properly. If you give your cheek up, you will die very quickly. That is the one thing about this ship compared to Ohio and Kurfürst. You have to respect every battleship, because they can all cheek you, even the tier 8 ones. We got a little bit lucky there on the torps from the Yugumo. Just take one, but as you can see, it's gonna take our health pool down quite a bit, and we can't heal as much of that up. But we'll secondary the Baji, or however you pronounce it, to try and reset him. But this game is looking to be a loss, as we don't have any destroyers left. My Soyuz is basically dead, and we're soon to have no caps. So a pretty easy win has turned into a unfortunate loss. Now 300k damage is pretty nice, but winning games is pretty fun too. So we don't even have 100 main battery hits, and we have 300k damage, which is pretty nice, honestly. That is the nice thing about this ship. It doesn't take much for hits to get big damage. Now I'm surrounded by DDs, so this is a rough circumstance to be in. The Mogador only has like 8 kilometer torps, I think. And so I don't really have to worry about him torping me, but the Yugumo for sure I gotta worry about torps. So that's why I have secondaries on the, or I had secondaries on the Mogador, hoping they would do something. Yeah, we'll take some torps. Secondarying the Baji as much as I can to delay him getting the cap. So that's a pretty tanky boat. You know, we're up to over 3 million potential damage. Now I'm going to secondary the Yugumo since he used his torps. Now he might have torpedo reload, which we got to be a little bit wary of, but I'm going to try and angle so that more of my secondaries get off against him. And I'm going to turn to try and hit this Nevsky, because I have to kill him here if I even want to hope to win the game. I got to kill him, and I got to kill the Mogador. So Mogador can go dark a little easier, so we're going to try and shoot him. You know, 6 guns, they do a lot if they hit, but 6 guns dispersion against DDs is not great. So we miss. But fortunately the Yugumo for some reason started using his main guns, and our secondaries just killed him real quick. But we're gonna lose this game, unfortunately. There's nothing more to be done here. You know, 50 seconds left in the game, and they have all the caps. There's nothing I can do but kill things. So I have to kill this Nevsky this shot. And if I had killed the Mogador last shot, there was a chance that I would win. I had to get 2 more kills at least, because the Baji is just gonna hide. So unfortunately, this guy knows how to play a little bit, so he turns in on my shot. And I'm going to secondary the Yugumo since he used his torps. Now he might have torpedo reload, which we got to be a little bit wary of, but I'm going to try and angle so that more of my secondaries get off against him. And I'm going to turn to try and hit this Nevsky, because the Baji is just going to hide. So That's something you can get used to if you've been shooting at someone all game. You start to understand how somebody dodges. You know, if they're bow in like this, he's probably gonna slow down and turn in. And as you can see, he did turn in a little bit, but we hit him a little bit, but too bad. Nearly 370k damage, and we lost. You know, and I even played passive that game, and we still got that damage. So it's a good ship. Earns credits pretty well too, as you can see. Kind of a rough team, to be honest, but they happen. There you go. You know, 40k secondary damage with another 30k in fires. It's pretty solid damage. Now on to the second last game. This one was cool, mostly because of this beginning, honestly. That's the main reason I included it. Because we have a carrier spotted. We gotta make sure we kill those, honestly. So I didn't pop my spotter plane there just yet because he's really far away, and I saw that my carrier was kind of leaving. Now I popped it to get a shot because he's in range now. You know, you can take these pot shots. You can't really expect too much out of them, but the main thing I'm doing to aim these, because they are hard to aim when people are coming towards you or going away from you, I'm looking at the little dot on the map that says exactly where I'm aiming, and as you can see, awesome when we hit, right? That little dot, and I'm trying to line that little dot up with where his ship is going. So you see how there's that big line coming out of where this midway is going? And I try and line up that little dot. Now here was a terrible shot. This just didn't go because he turned out. But if you put that little circle right as it intersects the line coming out of the front of their ship on the map, that's how you know you're aiming well. So when I aim, I constantly am looking at the map to check that, based on what I've kind of aimed at just on my regular screen. And this is my favorite. That's my favorite shot, or couple of shots I've ever hit in this ship. Yeah. People don't like carriers. I don't like carriers. So killing one at the start's pretty much the funnest thing in the world. And I did say bye in chat, which might seem a little toxic, but it's reserved, alright? You gotta reserve things for special occasions, as I like to say. So we reserve bye for killing a carrier, especially at the start, and for killing a Smolensk in smoke, especially a Dev Strike in the smoke. Those are the two circumstances you do it. Now, broadside North Carolina, those can also be hit pretty hard, can't they? 2 Citadels, 47k, that's pretty good. So this ship can be a really, really solid sniper, honestly. When dispersion goes your way, oh man, it's fun. It is so fun. You see we have like 13 hits and 116k damage, you know? You know, we're barely getting to the 4-minute mark of this game, so... And this is with the dispersion module, you know? You can see my secondary's range isn't what it would be with a full... Is it? Actually, no, I think... No, it is 11.6. Silly me. This is a secondary build. And in fact, it's a concealment secondary build. I'm still trying to run that concealment thing, but I don't think it's quite worth it. But this ship is good enough that you can run a lot of different builds on it, and it's going to be fun. But you see how I've kind of been playing passively at the start of all of these games? That's because you can, for one thing in this ship, you can play passive, but also you kind of have to at the beginning. Even in a secondary battleship where you want to push in, a lot of the times you gotta wait until 10 minutes have passed to start pushing in, and ships have died and all that stuff. And you can see how I'm being patient. You gotta be patient and wait for the enemy ships to make a mistake. It's far better to get a shot off on a broadside than a bow-on ship, even if you have to wait another 20 seconds. As you can see, it's pretty nice when you land a citadel. It's very satisfying. So yeah, it's hard to know what to take, dispersion or secondaries, but I tend to just go for secondaries, honestly. Checking something in chat, I don't know what. I don't remember. I actually played this game a little while ago. So now that my team's kind of pushing up, I want to push up with them. I probably should have been pushing a little earlier, to be honest, because we kind of got this flank and a Conqueror's tanking right now, which he can do because of his heal, but his armor's really bad, so we just want to help out on this Soyuz. And as you can see, he's turning a bit broadside. Now our secondaries are on him. So they're not the most accurate secondaries. They're about like Kerr-first secondaries, honestly. Maybe a little bit in between, but they're no Ohio accuracy secondaries. But you can get the pen up pretty high, and the reload's crazy. With the full build, with everything for secondaries, it's somewhere around 2.1 second base reload. That's not counting adrenaline rush or anything like that. Now I want to be clear, these games are cherry-picked, right? This is not how this ship will be all of the time. These are just the good moments, mixed in with a few bad. You know, you can see basically no damage on a Kerr-first there. There's games where that's all you get, and you don't get any of the really high damage fun salvos. And you kind of just gotta accept that if you're gonna play this ship. But you see, dispersion's pretty solid, despite running secondaries. Only one hit, unfortunately. But the main thing that you gotta worry about when pushing in, you gotta think about things. You gotta think about, is there a carrier in the game? If there's a carrier in the game, you can't push in alone. Carriers just ruin a lot of things in this game. And pushing in, flanking, all those things, doing anything alone, you just can't against a carrier. The other thing you got to think about is what destroyers do they have on their teams and where are they positioned. If you push in and there's a destroyer on your flank, you're gonna die because you have to stay angled to the fleet of ships shooting you, or the few ships shooting you, and the destroyer is just gonna kill you with torps. The other thing you got to worry about is the cruisers. If a cruiser's behind an island, you just can't push into that. All the tier 10 cruisers have really good fire chance and really high DPM these days, so you need to be able to either take cover from them or you gotta kill them fast, really. So as you can see, mostly a main guns game. I just wanted to include this one to show it is. Main guns are still the majority of the damage with this ship, even if you go secondaries. Now here, I'm pretty sure I'm running full IFHE secondaries. As you can see, my concealment's 15.7, which is not good, but you can use islands to push up with, right? Despite there being quite a few ships over here, honestly. Using these islands on this side of the map to push is definitely possible. You just need to be able to take cover from the ship shooting you from long range. As you can see, sometimes you just get lucky. Sometimes you get lucky. Now you can see on the other side of the map, my team's being really passive. So I'm expecting the enemy team to push through on that side of the map. And as a result, I'm trying to push in here a little bit more. It's a nice island to use for cover. I should be watching the torps that are likely to come through this gap at the moment, but fortunately, he goes on the other side of the island. This is a really risky turn. Really risky turn. But sometimes you get lucky. And now, we've got a ship at close range that we can full pen with our secondaries. And oh boy, is it nice. Now, unfortunately, we don't really get damage from our main guns. But our secondaries are chipping away. And I just missed the back of his boat there. When ships are kiting away from you and you know they're angled, you can, just like the bow citadels, you can hit stern citadels with this thing. It's really hard, but you can go for it. I miss it a lot of the time, but you can go for it. Now, of course, we have to shoot a CV, especially one that's spotted and low health. That just has to happen. Now we're angling away. This is generally a pretty solid place to be in. Angled away, kiting. It's not quite as good because you do have a cheek on the backside of your boat as well that people can hit. So you got to be a little bit careful, but so does everybody else when you're playing this ship. And you can see when you hit the back, you overmatch that part still too, so you can do some pretty good damage to angled ships, even with ones that have pretty good armor. You can see I'm constantly varying my speed. So no citadels there, just a lot of full pens. And that is kind of the weakness of the Yamato hull. Your upper belt is only 32 millimeters, which is not good unless it's completely angled. So ships like Montana can get a lot of full pens. Now I'm getting pressured by a couple ships, lost some health. My heal's on cooldown and soon to be my damage con as well. So it's time to back off a little bit. It's kind of an ebb and flow to secondaries. You can't just constantly be pushing as much as you might want to. And again, we got pretty good damage already, you know? 105k. It's weird, this ship doesn't need a lot of hits to get a lot of damage. It's a weird thing where you think, oh, this is kind of an okay game, and then you look at your damage and you're like, oh, this is a great game. Because it's got nearly 5,000 more alpha damage per shell than the next closest battleships, so that really adds up, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, this ship. Definitely recommend it to people who want to get it. So you see, we're not in the best of positions right now. Team's kind of crumbling. I'm hoping that people won't die on the other flank, but it's hard to tell right now. So I'm thinking about going over there and helping, honestly. And I want to get secondaries into the fight, you know, and it's hard to do that on this side where, well, at least this Montana's pushing, but a Venezia kiting away and an Alaska kiting away, it's like, I just don't want to push into that, man. Those ships are so hard to deal damage to, even with overmatch. Now here's another tactic you can use, is to reverse into people. It's a little slower than pushing in, but a lot safer. You can get out of bad situations. So it's a good one to use. It's just like a DD reversing into a cap kind of thing. Excuse my dogs. Getting a little restless. Probably should go throw the ball for them a little bit this afternoon. But as you saw on the Montana there, you don't get citadels when things are broadside. It's not consistent, but no battleships are consistent in that regard, so... As much as I might wish it, this game does not reward good play and punish bad play all the time. Sometimes it does, though. And it's nice when it does. Now they're starting to push up on our base, so I feel like I really need to come back and help. Our ships are pretty pushed out of position. Hopefully our carrier is going to be able to spot things. We just missed the Smolensk there. But this is a good ship. Yamato hull is weak. To summarize, this is a really good ship. The hull is weak because it's a Yamato hull, so brawling with this hull takes a lot of practice and constant attention to your angle. The secondaries, I would say, are the best in the game. If you really spec into them, I would say they're the best in the game because they have the fastest reload. They get over 32 millimeters of pen. They have pretty good accuracy. And they have pretty solid angles too. There's a lot of them as well. Your main guns, I like them better than Yamato. They're not as not quite as consistent, but when you do hit, it's just way more fun than Yamato. Because hitting someone for nearly 20,000 damage is just hilarious. Or 40,000 if you get 2 citadels. It's a good ship. It's expensive, and not many people are going to have it, but it's a good ship. Now the question might be, or the question probably is, do you get a Shikishima or do you get the Bourgogne? Because they're both battleships for steel. And I would recommend probably getting Bourgogne first. Especially if you don't really like Yamato. Because as you can see, the hull is pretty weak. You take a lot of damage from HE, take a lot of damage from AP if you're in the wrong positions. Whereas Bourgogne has good concealment, it's really fast. It's so fast, and that allows it to tank with speed a lot more. And having a reload booster on 12 guns is more consistent than 6 guns that deal more alpha per shell. I would say Bourgogne is more consistent. The thing I don't like about Bourgogne is sometimes you're just stuck spamming HE at bow on battleships from 20 kilometers. And I don't really like that kind of playstyle. But when you get on the flank, Bourgogne is very fun. Just like Shikishima is very fun when you get into brawling range, like we're about to right here. As you can see, I'm again using islands to isolate fights. So I'm trying to isolate into a fight there with that Montana. Trying to stay away from the Smolensk and the Kremlin here, and the Kitakaze. So that's what a lot of this game is with the Shikishima, is isolating into 1v1s, and your ship is really strong in a 1v1, especially if you play it right. So here, I'm pushing up to get onto the Kremlin here, but I'm actually going to slow down enough, I think, that I don't go out too far to get shot by the Smolensk. Well, I am right now, but hopefully I smarten up and maybe back up a little bit. See, now everybody's shooting me. See, I should have stopped a little bit sooner, and then I wouldn't have to deal with the Kitakaze and the Smolensk shooting me, and I could have just focused on the Kremlin. See, it's something I just did wrong here. Now, you can just kind of kill the Smolensk pretty easily at close range, especially because you're secondaries. But you can see how much damage I'm taking, simply because I pushed out too far and allowed 3 ships to shoot me rather than just 1. But we had enough health to tank, long enough to kill the Smolensk. Always a citadel when it's on low HP, right? But now we're gonna get behind cover for the Kitakaze, so that's nice. A little risky with my damage control here. You know, we very easily could have taken a fire there from the Kitakaze. And the Kremlin there. I didn't realize he actually shot HE. It's a little weird. Because my ship's really saturated right now, so... But... we have Yamamoto. And we're on 4 kills right now. We've used all our heals. But... Yamamoto's pretty powerful when you get that last kill. Especially if you've taken mostly HE damage. So that's what we were gonna win this game anyway, but a nice little cherry on top is getting Yamamoto activated. As you can see, when cruisers get in close range with you, they just die. Your main guns hit them really hard, even in Alaska, which is notoriously tanky. And your secondaries pen almost everywhere. Not his deck armor, but everything else. It's a good ship, man. It's a good ship. I really, really enjoy it. I don't have terribly many games in it. I don't think I even have like 60 games in it, but it's been a lot of fun when I have been playing it. And there it is, second wind. You see we got a heal going, which is really nice because the Kitakazes could easily have killed me when I was on that lower HP. And this heal lasts a while, so some of this HP that the Kitakaze is going to get on me will be healed by Yamamoto. As you can see, Battleship shells can deal a lot to DDs still, even with AP. I probably should have switched to HE, but at this point it doesn't matter. I just need to hit one shell. You see how he slowed down and turned in? Well, you get to know what players are going to do, so we put one shell behind him, and he's going to accelerate now, so we put the rest of the salvo in front of him. So that way he's locked in, and the only way he dodges is if he stayed stationary, which he didn't. So, there you go. 4 really good games. These are probably the best games I've had in this ship. They're obviously not all like this. Very cherry-picked, but I wanted to show you that this ship can be fun. Because it seems like battleships just aren't ever fun, and they can be fun. It's just not the most common thing anymore, so... Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and hope you have a good day.